Dear friends, good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. Located on the ancestral lands of the Settlecot people. My name is Maureen Shaman, and I am thrilled to be your worship associate this morning and to welcome once again our worship leader, the Reverend Karen Gustafson. Reverend Karen has been my mom-type person since I was 15 years old, and she has also been a UU minister for 39 years with settled ministries in Duluth, Minnesota and Madison, Wisconsin, and interim ministries at several other congregations. She is a former member of the UUA's Ministerial Review Committee and a creator of the Life Review Weekend Retreats. She has been recognized for many things, including her use of story as a path to personal and institutional transformation. Our Director of Religious Education is Deb Little. Many thanks to our musicians today, Peg Espinola without Lou Yedwab, who unfortunately is sick this week, Bethany Riddle, Peter Winkler, who stepped in at the last minute, thank you, Tom Pelletier, Ron Posnack, and the Unicorn Singers, conducted by Dan Weymouth. Many thanks also to our tech team, Linda Cortese, Rich Hall, and Rob Pond. I welcome you wherever you may be this morning, whether you are happy or sad, rejoicing or grieving, here in our sanctuary or attending online. We are glad you are here. We are one congregation, worshiping together, so let's all wave at the folks at home through the camera here on your left. A very special welcome to anyone joining us for the first time, or if you have been here a few times but still feel like a newcomer. We're so glad you're with us and look forward to getting to know you. Please plan to stay after the service for coffee and conversation. For those online, please use the link to join our small group chats after the service. At any time during the service, you are invited to place a pebble into the container of water on the side table. This practice, brought to us by our members from the former Great South Bay congregation, symbolizes the expression of a joy, a concern, a promise, or a release, and sends ripples of your intention out into the world, connecting your individual intention with the intentions of all in our community. Now let's silence our cell phones, take a deep breath, and prepare ourselves to enter into the sacred space of worship with the sounding of the morning bell. May the vibrations help us to open our hearts and our minds and bring us fully into this moment.
Oh, okay. Just as well. I just had to silence my phone. Hey, what to sing about in these days? What chime or melody, turn of phrase? What is your story now? Where is your gaze? What to sing about in these days? Towers are tumbling, tumbling down. Fortresses crumbling, crumbling crowns. Governments grumbling as they drown. Towers are tumbling, tumbling down. Plant your song like a seed. Hold your heart like a prayer bead. Give your breath like a tree. Set your soul's deep love free. I know a woman who walks and prays. watching the warrior walk and pray. What is your story now? Where is your heart? This is a one-act play. What's your part? In every ending there's some new start. What is your story now? Where is your heart? Plant your song like a seed. Hold your heart like a prayer beat. Give your breath like a tree. Set your soul's deep love free. There is a garden that grows at night. Then in the winter it tucks in tight. Drifts off and dreams about birds in flight who carry the seeds of this garden's light. What to sing about in these days? What rhyme or melody, turn of phrase? What is your story now? Where is your gaze? What to sing about in these days?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm delighted to be back with you today. There was some feedback from last time that you couldn't always hear me, so those of you in the back or wherever you are, if you can't hear me, just raise your hand and give me a little feedback because I won't know if you don't tell me. Tim O'Brien, who wrote The Things They Carried about his experience in Vietnam, wrote these words: "Stories are for joining the past to the future. Stories are for those late hours in the night when you can't remember how you got from where you were to where you are. Stories are for eternity, when memory is erased, when there is nothing to remember but the story." Oh, sorry.
I have asked Tom Pelletier to light our chalice this morning as I read the chalice lighting words by Lee Kinvey, called The True Story. This chalice is for the living, the changing, the becoming. This chalice is for losing the script of your life, the chapters about who you are in other people's stories. This chalice is for the lost GPS that was supposed to show you how to get where they expected you to go. This chalice is for skipping the directions, coloring outside the lines, painting not by number, but by silence, by wild abandon, with a brush you made yourself from a light deep inside. Startling, vivid, a new voice that already knows you. Finally, a true story. Thanks, Tom. Please rise in body or spirit to sing our first hymn, one of my very favorites, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Like the first
Well, Ellery Burgess was 8 years old, and he was a planner. His Papa James and his Papa Matt and his sister Kate always seemed so disorganized. Every night before he went to bed, Ellery thought about the next day, and he laid out just the right clothes to wear for what he expected to happen. If he thought that it would be cold, he laid out a sweater. If he expected it to rain, he set out his rubber boots. Sometimes Ellery was the only one on the playground who was warm and dry. He planned other things too. When he did his homework, he made sure he had enough sharp pencils and the right kind of paper. He started his homework at 4:30 sharp every day, and he had often had it done by supper time. And this summer, Ellery was old enough to help plan summer vacation. In May, he and his family started talking about what they would do when there was no school. They talked about day camp at the nearby park where he and his older sister could go, the places a family might go together, the swimming lessons at the local YMCA, and the reading club at the library. And by the time school was over, the family had a plan, and Ellery carefully wrote it on the calendar that hung on the wall in the kitchen. He wrote his things in red ink: day camp 1 week, swimming on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 3 weeks, a list of books to read, and a week alone with his grandparents. He wrote the family things in green ink: a week camping at a state park nearby where they lived, a week at home when everybody would help paint the garage. Ellery looked forward to summer with great expectation. At night, as he was falling asleep, he imagined every detail of how it could be. As the summer went on, things did not quite happen the way he imagined. He found himself counting up his disappointments. On the family camping outing, there was a thunderstorm one day, and so he couldn't swim as much as he'd planned, and his sister brought her stupid friend along who was afraid of bugs, and so Ellery had to sleep next to the door of their tent. His best friend got warts on his feet and couldn't join him for the swimming lessons. But the biggest change in plans came when his grandparents called to say that they had decided that instead of a week alone at the farm with them, that which was what he had planned, they would take him and his sister on a road trip to the city. Wouldn't that be fun? Grandma said. They would drive for a while in the car, and they would check into a hotel with a pool. They would go to the zoo, and they would go to the science museum, and they would eat in restaurants. They would go shopping in the mall and maybe get some school clothes. Katie, who had planned to spend the week with a friend at a friend's cabin, was quick to see that this was a great idea. And her friend was happy for her, even though she had to change her plans, but not Ellery. He went to his room and he shut the door. In a little while, his parents came to the door. "What's the matter?" "Not what I planned." "Well, honey, plans change. Grandma and Grandpa had some business in the city, and they thought this would be a great time to have a little adventure. You can go to the farm in the fall." "Well, I'll go," said Ellery, "but I won't have a good time." "How do you know?" said Papa Matt. "Because it wasn't part of my plan." "Suit yourself," said Papa James. So Ellery and Katie went to the city with their grandparents. Katie watched out the windows of the car. She and her grandparents sang songs and played the alphabet game. Ellery pretended to be asleep. At the hotel, Katie and her grandparents changed into their suits to go to the pool. "Aren't you coming, Ellery?" they asked. "I wasn't planning to," said Ellery, and he started to watch cartoons on the television. That night, they went out to dinner to a restaurant that served many kinds of hamburgers. Grandpa had one with bacon and avocado. Grandma had one with tomatoes and artichoke hearts. Katie had a turkey burger with a slice of pineapple and some sweet sour sauce. Ellery had a plain burger with ketchup, though artichoke hearts and avocados were really his favorite foods. The next day, they were going to the zoo. When they got there, Ellery said, "I think I'll just sit here on the bench and wait for you to come out." "Me too," said Grandpa. Ellery looked surprised. "I've seen the animals before," said Grandpa, "but more than seeing the animals, I had planned to show them to you. I can see that you are still disappointed that your plans at the farm did not happen, and since my plan certainly isn't going to happen, I think I'll just sit here with you. There are actually a lot of things I can see from here." "Like what?" Ellery asked. "Well," said Grandpa, "like that big old tree over there. That tree is possibly 100 years old. And that pond? Well, it's been dug since I was here 2 years ago. When I'm somewhere I didn't plan to be, I like to look around and think about all of the changes that have happened to create the world that I am looking at." Ellery had not noticed the pond or the tree. "Like when I'm stuck in traffic or have to wait in a doctor's office, or when I'm waiting for your grandma to finish shopping, I look around for clues about what people were thinking when they decided to leave a tree or dig a pond or paint a mural. It helps me feel good about where I am at the time. Sometimes I look for beautiful things or odd-shaped things, or sometimes I play the alphabet game that we played in the car yesterday. And I find something that starts with every letter of the alphabet. So while we are both here not doing something we'd planned, maybe we could do this other thing, which is just being where we are and noticing what's around us." They were quiet for a while, just looking at the scene in front of them, and then Ellery said, "Do you think there might be more things to notice inside the zoo?" "Maybe," said Grandpa. "Want to check it out?" "Okay," said Ellery. "I think I will plan to have a good time now." "Are you sure?" asked Grandpa. "Yep," said Ellery. "Good enough," said Grandpa. And it was. So now I'm going to invite you to please open your hymnal to the inside back cover if you are not familiar with the Reed Children's Benediction, and we'll sing the children out to your classes. Thank you for being here.
Our meditation words today are by that most prolific author, Anonymous. After the reading, we will have a minute of silence. Then Bethany will bring us out with hymn number 90 in the gray hymnal, From All the Fret and Fever of the Day. You may wish to open to that page now and leave it open on your lap. Giver of life, help me to approach this moment, this day, this week, month, this year, this life, as an adventure whose ending I do not yet know. Allow me to embrace each plot twist without self-blame or despair, but with innocent wonder. May each change be savored and each accompanying emotion be fully felt, that I may fully live.
The reading today is from a book called Proverbs of Ashes by Rebecca Parker, and Rita Nakashima Brock. Rebecca Parker was the president of the Star King School after I left there as a student. She writes, this is there's a lot in here that is autobiographical, and one of the stories she tells begins earlier in the book. She is a Methodist minister at this time. She had been married for a couple of years, and she and her husband, or so she thought, had decided to start a family. But when she became pregnant, he said, "Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not ready to be a parent." And so this was in the mid-70s, and she got an abortion and became infertile as a result. And then about 6 months later, he left her. So this is kind of not a happy story. And then she began to become disillusioned with her faith and just entered into a really dark time in her story. And so she became increasingly isolated. And so the story continues. She said, "The isolation in which I had surrounded myself accumulated. I could not break the spiral of anguish and self-directed anger. I turned on myself for nearly 2 years, night after night. I'd been pacing the parsonage halls, caught in relentless rage and grief. One night I came to the end of my will to live. I just wanted the anguish to stop. It was spring, a cold night, clear night. I lived at the top of the hill above Lake Union, and sometime after midnight, I left my house and started to walk down the hill. The water would be cold enough, I could walk into it and swim, and then let go and sink down into the darkness and go home to God. The thought was comforting. I had no second thoughts. I was set on my course. At the bottom of the hill, I had only a small grassy rise at the edge of the Kite Hill to cross before I came to the water's edge. I crested the familiar rise and began the descent into the welcoming water when I was caught short by a barrier that hadn't been there before. It looked like I was caught short. It looked like a long line of oddly shaped sawhorses laid out to the left and to the right, the width of a grassy field. In the dark, I could not see a way to get around either end. I could climb over the middle. I quickened my pace, impelled by the grief that would not let go of me. As I got closer, the dark forms before my eyes seemed to be moving. I squinted to understand what I was seeing. The cold, bunchy shapes were a line of human beings bundled up in parkas and in hats. The stick shapes weren't sawhorses, they were telescopes. It was the Seattle Astronomy Club. Before I could make my way through the line, one of them looked up from his eyeglass and, presuming me to be an astronomer, said with enthusiasm, "I've got it focused perfectly on Juniper. Come, take a look." Well, I didn't want to be rude or give away my reason for being there, so I bent down and I looked through the telescope. And there was Jupiter, banded and glowing red. "Isn't it great?" he said. It was great. Jupiter was beautiful through the telescope. The amateur astronomer focusing the lens didn't know me. He didn't know why he was there. He assumed I was there because the sky was a wonder to behold. Across the sheen of dark water, the lights of the city shimmered. Overhead, the sky was wild with pinpoints of fire. I couldn't kill myself in the presence of these people who had gotten up in the middle of the night, of a cold spring night, with their home-built Radio Shack telescopes to look at the planet and the stars. It would be wrong to think of this moment as one in which joy triumphed over despair, or love of life defeated desire for death. Such a view assumes that bad feelings need to be excised or suppressed by a stronger, better feeling. Peace or happiness or even survival are imagined to be accomplished by cutting something out or dominating some aspect of the self. Viewing the soul this way internalizes violence. I did not defeat the negative feelings of anguish and despair because I saw something more lovely and good. Rather, I became able to feel more. My feelings broadened. Pain, sadness, and despair were not eliminated or overcome. I embraced them with a larger heart. All the feelings and memories I had could not be held by a decision to die. I could only hold everything with a decision to live.
Each week, it is our spiritual practice to share half of our offering plate with a local organization working for a more just future. Our shared plate recipient for the month of May is the Kids Hangout, a program for LGBTQIA+ youth and allies entering grades 7 through 10 this fall, which was started several years ago by our DRE, Deb Little, along with 2 colleagues from Setauket Presbyterian Church. It is not a religious program, but has been supported by both congregations. The goal of the program is to offer monthly opportunities for the youth to gather and a free one-week experience during the summer where these young people can have fun, make friends, and feel safe. We are all aware of the hate being directed at this particular community right now, and I hope that you are aware that UUFSB has been a welcoming congregation for LGBTQ people for years. So please be generous in your support for this much-needed program. You may direct any questions to Deb, and you may make your gifts in the plate or online, where the link to donate is in the comments. Your gifts will be gratefully received and well used. Thank you.
May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest this time is blessed for you. This time is blessed and shining almost blinding bright. Just turn your head and you'll begin to see the 1,000 reasons what were just beyond your sight. The reason why I suggest to you, why I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a word that's been addressed to you in intended only for your eyes. A secret world, like a treasure chest to you, of private scenes and brilliant dreams that mesmerize. A tender lover's smile, a tiny baby's hands, the million stars that fill the turning sky at night. Oh, I suggest to you, oh, I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a hope that's been expressed to you, the hope of 7 generations, maybe more. This is the faith that they invest in you. It's that you'll do one better than was done before. Inside you know, inside you understand, inside you know what's yours to finally set right. And I suggest to you, and I suggest this is the best part of your life. This is a song, comes from the west to you, comes from the west, comes from the slowly setting sun. This is a song with a request of you to see how very short the endless days will run. And when they're gone, and when the dark descends, we'd give anything for one more hour of light. And I suggest this is the best part of your life.
We acknowledge the pebbles we see creating ripples in the water before us. May these ripples carry our shared joys and sorrows, reminding us that we are connected. We hold each other in love and support. Thank you. Well, I have spent a good deal of time since my retirement from full-time settled ministry exploring the power of story. In particular, the power of personal stories and the ways in which the narrative we use to tell our own stories both reflects the past and shapes the future. I have done this through a practice of life review, which involves listening, providing witness as the teller attends to the impact of the particular story they tell and considers how claiming a fuller telling might impact the direction of their lives. As I was beginning this practice, I received an important lesson from my granddaughter. Out of the mouths of babes, we used to say. So her grandpa and I, who has joined me here today, were staying with her and her little brother while their parents went on a much-deserved weekend away. Zoe, who was then just about 8 years old, and Grandpa and I were playing a version of Monopoly with her, which I think was called Dogopoly. And I left the game to attend to the baby, and when I came back, Zoe had left the table and was watching a video with her little headphones on. So after a time, my husband went over and said to her, "Are you done playing the game?" And she picked up her little earphone enough to hear, I think, to hear him, and said yes. And so we picked up the game and put it away, and in time, the video ended, and she came back to the table where the game was, and guess what? She said, "Where's the game?" Well, we put it away. We thought you were done. Tears, drama, outrage. No, I meant not right then. Well, we could play again. No, I wanted to play that game. I was winning. More tears, a slammed bedroom door. After a while, I went to her. "Zoe," I said, "I am so sorry that there was a misunderstanding about the game. Grandpa and I both heard you say that you were done playing, and we didn't take the time to be sure that we understood. So this sounds like a story with an unhappy ending." "Yes," she said, "and it's a true story." "Yes, it is," I said. "But maybe there is more to the story that can give it a different ending. Why don't you think about it? And if you can figure out a way to make a different ending, Grandpa and I will be here to help in whatever ways we can." So in a few minutes, she came out and she said, "I want to play the game again." "Okay," I said, I've started the dishes now. Could you and Grandpa just play the game?" And she said, "No. Having you play the game with us is part of my happy ending." And so I did. "And it's a true story," she said. "For better or for worse, whatever story we tell, even a lie, can carry a truth. It is the truth of the felt, often unconscious need of the teller to shape or preserve some aspect of identity in relationship to the big story that connects us all. And there's always more than one true story." Recently, in one of my retreats, I witnessed the life story of a 60-year-old man, we'll call him Arthur, that began with the line, "I was born with a cleft palate." The story that followed focused upon the embarrassment his privileged parents felt at having a child with a birth defect, of the surgeries that corrected the disfigurement, of the shame he felt as a child who perceived himself as different, which followed him his entire life in spite of the miracles of plastic surgery and speech therapy and a private school education. It was a true story. much of the pain metabolized into the healthy whole of a grounded and competent adult. Yet the undercurrent of shame carried, and embarrassment carried, and the lingering questions about how he had been perceived during his life also lingered. The story, though true, had remained, well, small. I was born with a cleft palate had become the defining statement from which his early story emanated in a child's mind. My parents were embarrassed. I felt shame. I felt different. 60 years later, there were remnants of that story that had remained unchanged. So part of the life review process is to invite the client to reflect on the parts of their story with an eye toward expanding them with their adult mind without denying the truth or the impact of the true story. We look for a bigger story, even as Rebecca Parker found a bigger story. So this involves viewing the particular through the lens of a higher awareness. This man is a Unitarian Universalist. His faith invites him to affirm and promote, perhaps even to believe, in principles of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. When I asked him to reflect on that part of his life through this lens, I bore witness to a kind of spiritual transformation as he recognized the incredible privilege of his family's wealth that allowed for the expensive surgeries that made the differences go away. They also had access to therapies that helped with the less visible aspects of his condition. They were able to send him to a private school where the potential for bullying was monitored carefully. As he reflected on the ways he had benefited from social and cultural inequities due to his family's socioeconomic standing, which he had rejected, he found compassion for his parents who, though very image conscious and perfectionistic, loved him in ways that he had not recognized. I was born with a cleft palate was replaced with something like, I was the youngest of 4 children who had many privileges and advantages. Though I was born with a cleft palate, I was afforded the best medical care and therapy available. I often felt different and sometimes used my advantage to seek sympathy, though I was often lonely. By the time I was in high school, my surgeries completed, I had learned to use my story to lower the expectations of others. I wonder if I haven't formed a pattern of inviting lowered expectations and protected myself from some of the real challenges that might have expanded my power to influence for good. I have reflected on this story and many like it over the years, how the unexamined soundbite can trigger a chain of self-limiting conclusions. Many of us learned at the very early age how stories can change in the telling. So how many of you remember the telephone game? Remember that? Sitting in a circle, a designated person would write something on a piece of paper and then whisper it in the ear of the person on their right. And so the phrase would be whispered then from ear to ear to ear around the circle until the last person would say it out loud. And much hilarity at the end when the message emerged, often as a best garbled version of the original message, and it were something altogether different. Stories are transformed in the telling. Sometimes, as in the telephone game, they are changed by the mode of transmission. Whispering in someone's ear is both by volume and awkwardness of the closeness. And in addition, there is no context for the message in the game itself. It is, however, remarkable how the stories we pass on in our normal voices, in more complete contexts, become garbled in interpretation and projections as they become part of a larger story. For better and for worse, we can choose stories that reinforce some aspect of another person's story. I remember the first time I heard someone say, "This is not my story to tell." In her work on forgiveness, Christina Robinson writes about the power of the grievance story. I am wronged. Someone has hurt or offended me. I tell the story. It is a true story. The offense has occurred. I was offended. I share the story with a second party. What I often fail to attend to is that that person's reaction is about to become part of the story. That's terrible, the third party says, or the second party says. You must be furious. Who does he think he is? He shouldn't be allowed to blah, 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 blah. The grievance is set and growing. When a community culture grows up and around these kinds of responses, it grows pockets of discontent. What might happen in a culture in which the response is simply, I wonder what it would need to happen for you to stop needing to tell that story? Does the story have an off-ramp that might lead to a path of redemption, or even a story with a happy ending? In her TED Talk on the danger of a single story, Chimena Ngozi Adichie speaks of how all of our stories make us who we are, and to insist on only good stories or bad stories is to flatten our experience. The single story, either the story of our proudest moments or the stories of our greatest disappointments, are true, but one without the other is incomplete. How do we open our hearts to hold more? They make the one story the only story. In the extreme, Rebecca Parker's story of loss and abandonment had become so powerful that she was willing to end her life. It was a true story, and the opening to the larger story allowed her to hold the possibility of life itself. This is just one of the many ways of right-sizing stories, of energizing the particulars or the sound bites, the quick and careless judgments that form so much of our private and public discourse without regard for values or ideals or consequences or spiritual significance. I have been imagining that the world of ideals and actions exists outside of a giant dome. Floating high above us are our most promising ideals, a giant word cloud that holds all truly inspiring thoughts of the world's religions and philosophers and behavioral and social psychologists. All those little slogans that we keep with us, they're all out there. They're all there for us. The fortune cookie writers, the creators and poets, Brené Brown and Ken Burns, and all of the people who will be giving commencement addresses in the next weeks. All those thoughts, those wonderful ideas are all up there, right in the cloud. Love and kindness, integrity, respect, empathy, justice, equity, and compassion still available to us all the time. And on the ground below, many stories away, is the sucking vortex of the particular. The place where generativity and creativity and nuance and ambiguity and generous action, curiosity and reason are sucked into oblivion. It is the place where stories go to stay small. And somewhere in between those is a space where our particulars and ideals meet and merge and inform one another and make meaning that matters. It's where we come to live in a larger story, the story that holds both the awareness of great change that is impacting the ideals and values that many of us claim or take for granted. We are, all of us, in danger of being sucked into the vortex. The stories that we are telling about ourselves, about the future of our country, the news clips and the sound bites, the snarky, angry, dismissive, outraged commentary that comes to us from are all a part of a true story. And holding it as the only story is giving it power to shape what comes next. The place of political power cannot be in the vortex. This is where Ellery Burgess, the planner, and Arthur, born with a cleft palate, found themselves. When Ellery became open to curiosity and beauty and history and the voice of his grandfather, he did not stop being a planner. He became able to hold more, and his story got bigger. When Arthur opened to the context of the particular that was his birth defect, it changed not only his past, but his vision of the future. And in so doing, Ellery and Arthur moved back from the vortex where so many of us get trapped. As I witness the stories, I become more aware of the layers of my own life, how easy it can become to live in the small story. The list of particulars, laundry and groceries and bills and finances and planning the weekend and checking the mail. Can we stay in the house? Are we dealing with our stuff? Will our health hold? The headspace that I rent to these concerns changes and becomes more manageable, more meaningful. That I remember that the spirits informing these particulars are gratitude and commitment to my marriage and the future of my children and grandchildren and the privilege of living in a beautiful setting with people I love. All of those particulars are simply a means of holding those values. In the daily news, apart from human interest stories of individuals who are surviving or being sacrificed in the midst of so many devastations, there is precious little mention of any ideals or principles or values that are driving these stories. No newscasting asking, Mr. Netanyahu, Mr. Putin, Mr. Trump, what are the spiritual values that are driving our policies? What would your mother think of all of this? What does your religious faith teach you about all this killing? What would Moses say? What indeed? In a political system that is so solidly based on the separation of church and state, have we as a nation become a valueless society with no grounding even in the principles of common decency? Everybody should be talking about common decency, not just people who practice it every day. Where is the vector to the middle space where actions and values inform each other? What draws the particulars of action and service in public discourse away from the sucking vortex of sound bites and quick judgments and foregone conclusions, of glib ridicule and dismissiveness, and points us toward the openness and curiosity and compassion and genuine interest in the ways our stories can expand into a hopeful future? I am aware of how I let my own story get small. It happens when, in the spaciousness of time, I do not stop to think about the story I'm creating. I need to take more time to reflect on the impact of my choices, both past and immediate, to access my immense gratitude for the privilege that I enjoy, the unearned grace that I have energy and resources to express love and generosity and curiosity and wisdom, to consider each day how I will spend what I have as the best days of my life, to know when less is more. All around us are reminders of our most promising ideals. And faith is found in those stories where what we do and what we say and believe are most closely aligned. Stories of lost faith are often found in places where actions persist, where what we believe has been forgotten or ignored. Our faith is renewed when our stories expand to hold more, especially more love. I remember in college, as I'm sure many of you do, the time when the word hypocrisy was on the lips of every young idealist looking at their parents' generation. They were not unfailingly practicing what they preached our parents. Humility came quickly when the hard choices and compromises of adulting came with marriage and career, children, and the challenges of my own faith journey. I wonder when I stopped consciously holding myself accountable for the ways in which my values are reflected in my actions. This is not a turn toward judgment, but an encouragement to move forward toward a larger love, which the world can neither give nor take away. May it be so. So now please rise in body and spirit and join in the singing of My Life Goes On in Endless Song, or How Can I Keep From Singing? Closing words are from Tim O'Brien. In the end, of course, a true war story is never about war. It's about sunlight. It's about the special way that dawn spreads out on a river when you know you must cross the river and march into the mountains to do things you are afraid to do. It's about love and memory. It's about sorrow. It's about people who never listen. So as we close our service, do we wave? We wave to the people on. And now we will extinguish the chalice, not that our light goes out, but that we carry it with us, inside of us, and bring it to all the world. Oh, benediction. Woohoo! And now may the peace which passes understanding, which the world can neither give nor take away, be and abide with you all. Go in peace, and please stay for this wonderful postlude.
Oh, the ceiling is high to let your soul rise up to the angels who teach you to fly. And when you're weary of clouds, well, it helps you back down, welcomes you home to this hallowed ground. It's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, for heaven below and heaven above. The heaven we know here in this world, here in our Church of the earth. The windows are wide, so darkness and light, mystery and beauty greet you inside. And there's room enough to hold all of us who gather in friendship, gather in love. And it's gilded in gold, gilded in rust, for heaven below and heaven above. here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. Church of life, ancient and bright, life that inside us shines, life that we share. This is our prayer, that we may always find the heaven we seek here at our feet, and here in this sunrise, in this heartbeat, it's gilded in gold and gilded in rust, for heaven below and heaven above, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth. It's gilded in gold and gilded in rust, for heaven below and heaven above, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, the heaven we know, here in this world, here in our holy church of the earth, church of